We now have two different constructors. We have a constructor that takes the maximum amount of information and will initialize the object completely, and we have a constructor that takes no information, and then you have to use the setters in order to initialize it. Now this brings up an issue. When we first create a student form, the question is, what's the minimum amount of information we want to supply? In this case, what we're doing is we're creating a form with no information, and it's possible for someone to use it with no information. What we'd really like to do is ensure that the minimum amount of information is supplied. In the case of our student class, I'd probably be satisfied if I got a first name and a last name from the student. I'm not all that concerned about whether or not I get an age. I am, however, concerned that I do get at least a first name and a last name. So what we can do here is we can change this constructor to essentially say that we think that the first name and the last name are the minimum requirements, and make sure those get initialized, and that the age can be initialized to 0. And notice what that does in the main program. Now it's impossible to initialize a student object without at least creating the basic values for it, which in this case is going to be the first and last names. And once we do it that way, we don't require the setters, but after we've initialized with minimum amount of information, it's okay to then turn around and set the age afterwards. And the same thing applies here. Notice that we were setting the first name of Wilma without the last name, but now they're both required. So we'll go fill in both the values. And we don't need this anymore. One last thing I'll point out, since we've got a little bit of time, notice that our class starts to get very long, the student class, and we get a whole bunch of methods. You can click on any one of these methods in Eclipse and it'll take you directly to the method, so there's a convenience. You don't have to scroll through in order to find the method that you want anymore. The other thing that you can do, which also makes life easier, is to sort them in alphabetical order, which means that now you can find the methods even easier.